Final steak we're going to cook, mate, is
Final one.
Eye fillet, which is probably the king of steaks for some people. It's the most expensive, but I reckon after that porterhouse, I don't know if it's going to get better than that.
I tell you what, it's going to be hard to beat.
It will be very hard to beat, but if something can beat it, it's the eye fillet.
We're working our way up.
We are. We started sort of the reason why the eye fillet is so prized is because of its tenderness more so than its flavour. The eye fillet comes from. Here we go.
I'm not bending over.
Yeah. Pretend you're a cow.
Okay, I'm a cow.
Okay. So this area here is where the eye fillet comes from. So down the back side here. So that doesn't do any. You think of the cow walking around in the paddock. That area of the cow doesn't move a lot. It goes around with the cow, but there's no actual muscle contraction happening. So the more a muscle works, the more flavour it develops, but the tougher it is. So this doesn't have a huge amount of flavour, but it is super, super, super tender. So to keep the flavour in it, we want to cook it for a very short amount of time. So 1.5 minutes each side, and that's all you need. Okay?
And because it's Cape Grim grass-fed beef,
extra flavour.
It will have extra flavour anyway.
Yeah. So I reckon as far as the different types of beef, grass-fed for me is the best way to go, because that's nature, that's beef, that's how it should be.
Okay, so we're going to crank this up.
Turn that up for me, mate. I'll put some oil. Again, we're oiling our steak, not the pan. And mainly this time, we're using non-stick pans, so it's not about lubrication, it's about heat transfer. So oil is a conductor of heat, so it transfers heat from the pan to the steak really, really quickly, so we get a nice.
Slight problem here, so hang on.
How you going there? You were a Sparky in your past life, weren't you, mate?
Yeah, I was actually. Yeah.
If you want me to do it, watch this.
It'll work now. Oh, jeez. Righto.
Now we're away. So we'll give that a little bit of time to heat up. Same thing, no salt on the steak yet. We'll salt the side that doesn't go down, and then we'll flip it. Okay. So 1.5 minutes is all we need.
1.5 minutes. No mucking around.
Then we can eat. Sizzle. We've got sizzle.
Sizzle.
So this will be the quickest one. Oh, let's do both of them.
I think
I'll eat one, you eat the other one.
Yeah.
So salt on those side, mate.
So just a pinch on each one?
Just a pinch on each one. And then remember to do the other side when you flip it.
Yep.
And that's probably got 1 minute to go now.
Okay.
So, as I said, medium rare, keep all the flavour, all the juice in there because it's not as flavoursome as some of the other steaks.
So if this was a bigger steak, and we're not to the Brontosaurus ribeye on the bone yet, but if this was a bigger steak, what would we do with it if given you can only cook it 1.5 minutes each side?
So if you had the big eye fillet, cook it 1.5 minutes either side, and then that's where that whole idea of the Heston comes in. So you just keep turning and slowly getting heat into the steak without burning the outside. Okay. So that's the Heston idea.
Okay. If it was a big slab of ribeye, and let's say you wanted to do it in the oven, similar to what a restaurant does, what would you do then?
Same sort of thing. So the restaurant would pan sear it like we're doing here, and then the restaurant would put the pan with the steak in it into the oven for about 12 minutes. Because you're cooking on the bone, it takes longer to cook. You've got to heat that whole bone up. But because you're cooking on the bone, you get more flavour. So the steak itself is extracting flavour from the bone to go into the steak. So I always reckon if you can cook a steak on the bone, do it. Pan sear, then into the oven for about 12 minutes, come out, rest. All up, the total cooking time is about 20 minutes for on a big ribeye.
Put a little bit of salt on it.
A little bit of salt on it. And you can see you've got some nice caramelisation. So what's happening there, inside the muscle, there is sugar. So when you add it to a hot pan, the moisture inside the cell of the muscle turns to steam, it bursts the muscle, the sugar comes out, and we caramelise the sugar, which is why it has that beautiful, sweet, beefy sort of flavour on the outside. So you're always looking for colour on the outside of your steak.
Okay.
That crust, because that's where the real beefy flavour comes from. Get him out onto the board again, mate.
Beautiful and tender.
Oh, mate. So again, rest for half the time that you cook for. We cook that for 3 minutes, it rests for 1.5 minutes. Okay. So we give it some pepper.
So it's a little bit different than if you remember one of my favourite movies, The Castle, where he brings out the burnt crispy steak and says who wanted medium, who wanted rare.
It's all exactly the same.
We've managed to do we've managed to do this with only 3 minutes of cooking time.
So a good tip for if you're cooking at home, you can see how soft that is. So if you put your fingers together like that for me, when you squeeze there, it should be nice and soft. So that's what we say is medium rare.
Okay.
Work up to that one. It'll get firmer in that muscle. That's medium. Medium well. Well done.
Okay.
So that's what you're looking for. So you can see how soft that is. If I put my fingers together and push that, medium rare.
Okay.
So that's a good way of testing
Great
in
tip.
the pan. Nice little tip.